Hello friends and welcome, my name is Katie and I am a children's bookseller. And today I wanted to talk about the shortlist for the Readings Children's Prize for 2022. A quick disclaimer, I do work at Readings as a bookseller, but I am not on the panel or have anything to do with judging this year's prize. But I have read all 6 of the shortlisted books and today I just wanted to review and discuss them and talk about who I think these books are for. Now I'll leave a link in the description box below to some further details about this prize, which will include some eligibility criteria and all of that sort of stuff. Every year Readings as an independent bookshop in Australia runs several prizes. The one we're talking about today is the Children's Prize, and that is for books targeted towards readers aged 5 to 12. So before we get to the full reviews and discussions, I'm just going to go over the 6 books that have been shortlisted this year. In no particular order, of course. My Brother Ben by Peter Canavis, Wheeler the Koori Warrior Guardians by Jordan Gould and Richard Pritchard, Little Gem by Anna Zobel, The Sugarcane Kids and the Red Bottom Boat by Charlie Archbold, A Glass House of Stars by Shirley Marr, and Treasure in the Lake by Jason Piment. So firstly, let's have a chat about My Brother Ben, which is the first of these books that I read. This is a contemporary story of brotherhood and growing up, perfect for ages 8 and older. In this, we follow a sensitive young boy named Luke who has an obsession with birds. He and his older brother Ben have always been very close. That is until Ben goes to high school and they start to drift apart. This isn't helped by the fact that the two brothers are very, very different. In the small town that they live in though, there is a competition currently running to win a boat, and both of the brothers really want to win this boat so that they can go fishing and explore the creek together. So it's quite a small, gentle and sweet story about these two brothers and their relationship, and how that relationship changes and evolves over time, but how at the end of the day they both love and adore each other so much. One of my favourite parts of the book was watching Luke develop his love for bird watching and drawing birds, and going out and finding different kinds of birds and learning more about them. This book and this story is very much rooted in place and in nature, and there's something really beautiful about that. There is quite a strong sense of foreboding throughout this book, with Luke not being sure what his brother Ben is getting up to when he, runs out late at night without his parents knowing. So although a lot of this book is very much rooted in nature and this brotherly love, there is a fairly strong sense of tension throughout as well. However, I will say that it is resolved in a really, really beautiful way, and ultimately I found this book really touching. I think kids who are a bit more introspective and sensitive will really appreciate this book, especially kids who maybe have an older sibling or have friendships that have changed and evolved over time. And of course, with Luke's love of birds, and he even makes friends with a magpie, I forgot to mention that, kids who have an affinity for nature and in particular birds will of course love this too. Next up we have Guardians, which is the first book in the new Wheeler the Koori Warrior series by Jordan Gould and Richard Pritchard. This is a fun and educational fantasy historical fiction story set about 40,000 years ago when megafauna still existed, and it's perfect for ages 8 and up. In this we follow one of my favourite characters that I've read in quite a while in middle grade, Wheeler, who is a strong-willed, kind, compassionate young girl. At the beginning of the book we find out that her entire tribe has been attacked and captured, and just before she dies, Wheeler's grandmother tells Wheeler that she is the one who has to rescue their tribe. Basically, it's her responsibility to become a hero and a warrior to save her family and her friends. So she sets out on this quest to bring together the Guardians, which are these kind of like megafauna spiritual creatures who take care of the people that live on this land. So it's a fast-paced, action-packed adventure story that is also quite funny and just full of heart. Wheeler is a great, fiery protagonist, and what I especially love about this book is that throughout there are little moments of education with some examples of pronunciation, for example, or definitions of words that are used. We also get some absolutely beautiful illustrations throughout the book that definitely add to the immersive experience. Although it is educational and informative, it's just so much fun to read. We follow Wheeler as she struggles with courage and becoming more brave, and as she overcomes many obstacles in her way. Although sometimes, of course, she's scared, she's a really positive kind of role model sort of character, and I love as well the friendships that are formed along the way. It's a great read and a great first installment to what I'm sure will be a wonderful series. Next up we have Little Gem by Anna Zobel. This is also the first in a series, and it's this beautiful, gentle, fantastical story about a witch, and it's perfect for ages 7 and over. In this story we follow a young witch named Gem who doesn't always feel super confident in her abilities, and she's attending like a little witch school, and we meet her when she's practicing for her next test, and she tries to perform a small traveling spell to move from one classroom to the next. However, she accidentally transports herself very far away and 100 years in the future instead. She ends up in this beautiful little small seaside town, and it turns out the people of this town are actually in need of a witch's help. And so while Little Gem tries to figure out how to get home, she decides she might as well help the people of this town. And because she's so cute and little, they sort of give her the nickname Little Gem. This was absolutely gorgeous, and it had a kind of whimsy that almost made it feel timeless. Basically, it almost feels like it was written a long time ago and it's a long lost classic or something. It's a gorgeous story about self-belief and confidence and friendship. I personally found this utterly charming, and I'm sure many readers will too. We've got some gorgeous illustrations throughout as well. Perfect for readers who want a cozy, sweet, fun read. And it's perfect for children who are reading independently or as a read aloud story. The next book is The Sugarcane Kids and the Red Bottom Boat by Charlie Archbold. This is a contemporary mystery adventure story, perfect for ages 8 and up. In this story, we follow Andy and his best friend Eli, who live in a far north Queensland coastal town where there's plenty of sugarcane and mangroves. Andy's a pretty outspoken, confident kid. His parents are divorced, but they have a pretty good relationship with each other. Eli is a much more quiet, sensitive kind of kid. And when his older cousin Jacob, who everybody adores, gets accused of a crime he did not commit, Eli and Andy set out to prove his innocence. So they kind of get their little gang of friends together and they start following the clues and trying to figure out how to prove that Jacob did not do what he is accused of. In doing so, they unravel this big mystery and discover a whole bunch of dodgy dealings by some adults. It's pretty fast-paced and action-packed, and it's full of these kids putting their heads together and working to their own individual strengths as well as together to find out what really happened. And it leads them down some pretty spooky avenues and some dodgy creeks with some crocodiles involved, but it's a good time the whole way through. This is a perfect book for kids who want a bit of a mystery along with plenty of adventure. It's got a bit of like an Enid Blyton kind of feel. A great adventure, a great mystery, but also just a really great story about friendship. The next book we have to talk about is A Glass House of Stars by Shirley Ma. This is a contemporary story with some fantastical magical realism elements, perfect for ages 9 and over. In this story, we meet Mei Xing and her father and pregnant mother as they immigrate to Australia. We learn quite early on that Mei Xing's parents are sacrificing an awful lot in order to hopefully offer Mei Xing a better education and future. So coming to a new country where they don't speak the language, where culture is very different, it's very, very challenging. Mei Xing and her parents all struggle with a whole host of things, from the sense of responsibility and burden that they all now have, as well as some things such as racism that they encounter. Additionally, there's a pretty significant tragedy with a loss of a family member that happens quite early on, which obviously heightens this difficult experience for everybody. And Mei Xing finds solace in her imagination and in the glass house at the back of the house that they're living in. It's a rundown, busted up old glass house, but when Mei Xing enters into that glass house, for her it is this sacred, beautiful space of rest, reprieve, and affirmation. So we primarily follow Mei Xing as she navigates these challenges with her family and at home, as well as at school. And we watch her as she really struggles to find that line between responsibility and obligation to her family and what they've given her, with fitting in and finding a sense of belonging, while also staying true to herself. There are some absolutely beautiful, heart-touching friendships that are developed throughout the story. It's honestly a pretty heavy and emotional read, and I thought it was absolutely beautifully done. This is one of those books that kids with a strong sense of empathy and wanting to understand different experiences, or maybe even an experience similar to their own, will love. But it's also one of those books that I just know that adult readers of middle fiction absolutely adore as well. It's the sort of book that will make you cry, both from how sad it can be, but also how beautiful it can be. And finally, we've got Treasure in the Lake by Jason Pennant, which is a fantastical adventure graphic novel, perfect for ages 10 and over. This is a beautifully illustrated story about Iris, who is a rambunctious young girl who dreams of becoming an explorer, but feels quite weighed down living in a small, sleepy kind of town. Her best friend Sam is quite content living in this small town, but one day when they're out sort of exploring together, they come across a hidden city. So it's got like a mysterious adventure and maybe a bit of time travel to it. And so it's about these two very different kids exploring this strange new world and trying to uncover its secrets. I'm a big fan of graphic novels myself, so I was so glad to see a graphic novel on this shortlist. And I think the illustrations in here are just gorgeous. They definitely made me feel like I was being swept off into an unknown world. Graphic novels are a great option for maybe the reluctant reader in your life, but this is just such a great story of adventure and exploration, and of two unlikely friends uncovering a whole host of secrets together. together. So those are the 6 books that have been shortlisted for the Readings Children's Prize this year. And I can honestly say that I have found readers to recommend all of these books to at work. I think this is a really well-rounded shortlist, and I think any reader can find something that they will love amongst these books. So on a very personal level, me as a reader, I think my 3 favorites were A Glass House of Stars, Wheeler, and Little Gem. I loved the atmosphere and the charm of Little Gem. I loved the fun, education, and representation of Wheeler. And I loved the honesty, imagination, and heart of Glass House. But as a bookseller, I can already tell you that I have recommended all 6 of these books to different readers. I think this is a great shortlist with something for everyone. Anyway, that's my review and rundown of the shortlist for the Readings Children's Prize this year. I hope you enjoyed chatting about some books. If you've already read any of these, I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't yet read any of them, of course, I would highly encourage you to do so, but I would love to hear which one interested you the most in the comments below. Regardless of the winner, I think this is such a great selection and celebration of Australian children's literature. Thank you so much for watching, and an especially big thank you goes to my patrons over on Patreon, especially to Livia, Lynette Brown, and Marie, who are my high tier patrons. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!